Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that is going to help you become your best self. And I'm so excited that you are here. Today, we are talking about, have you outgrown your friends? So there is a particular person in my life that I had a great friendship with for so many years, and it began in high school. But there did come a time where I was forcing my relationship until I realized it was because I had outgrown her. There was this and there was like a painful realization because, she used to be such a great friend of mine, and it hurt to know we just weren't at that place anymore because our lives became distinctly different than when we were in high school or even when we were each, separately doing college age things. Like I was going to college, I believe she was just working and traveling and doing, those fun exploratory things, which is great. But yeah, it's just, things had changed, things had shifted. But this is something that happens. It just is. It's something we need to accept because whether we want to point it out or realize it or not, it is going to happen. You are going to eventually outgrow a friend or, someone else in your life, like a mentor, someone you look up to, even acquaintances that would be beneficial to your life that are no longer necessarily like the highlights or the things that you're gravitating towards. It's kind of like when you have hobbies or when you have things. And I'm not comparing friendships to like physical objects. I'm just saying that it's totally natural for us to outgrow people in our lives. And I'm not saying that you're going to outgrow everyone, but it's totally normal for people to outgrow them. But yeah, so think about all the friendships you have had, and then think about how many you have right now and what happened in between. So you could say you grew apart is the reason that you grew apart is because of the actual physical distance put between you two, which is what a lot of people would say if they like moved away from their hometown or they like left to go to college or they left college and moved to a different city than what their friend was. Like, yeah, you could be like, well, that was the reason we grew apart. But I don't think that or the reason you felt like you outgrew that friend, it wasn't because things changed. But I would challenge you to really ask yourself, if they were such a good, great friend to you, why didn't you continue that friendship long distance? That's such a total normal thing to do these days. In fact, there are so many friends that I have met strictly online that I've never met in person. I don't anticipate meeting them in person anytime soon, not because of what's happening in the world, but just in general. I would like to at some point, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I don't think that physical distance is a great reason or how I would see it as an excuse for you to say that that's the reason why you are no longer friends with someone, as opposed to just accepting that you probably emotionally and mentally have just outgrew them, But yeah, so you might say that's your excuse. I don't think it really works. But I'm sure that you have others that can be an example of what I'm speaking about, other friendships that you have outgrown. So, my drift and outgrow phase happened because my husband and I were focusing more on business and investments. But my friend over here was focused on still living by the seat of her pants, not really settling, which is totally fine. I know plenty of people in my life that have that nomad lifestyle and just want to move from place to place and like find whatever job they can do over the internet and just make their living that way. Or if they have a chunk of savings and then they use that to go travel and then they come back and do a job and then they save up again and go travel, and have that kind of pattern, which is totally fine. So it wasn't that either one of us were doing anything wrong. And it was funny that I didn't realize that that I outgrew her. I cannot say for sure that she outgrew me. I can't speak to that. Because I've actually never even had a conversation with her about this because I just don't think it would be the most appropriate thing to discuss. But it's interesting that it wasn't until this point where my husband and I had already had a child and we had already lived in a couple different places and had different jobs, but it was like after we bought a home and after we decided we really needed to be doubling down on savings and investments and really becoming the business people that we aspired to be, that I realized that we were growing apart. I think it was just seeing how many things that we were involved in and focused on, and not being able to relate with her on those things because she wasn't doing those things. And again, this isn't to say that friendships are going to grow apart because you're not interested in the same things, but it's such a big, big, important part, right? You're not interested in the same things, or you're not going through the same struggles or instances, experiences in your life. It's like there has to be some sort of a connection there, and it can't just be a connection that existed in the past that you're kind of trying to pull all the way through. So yeah, it just didn't match up with us, and created separation really, and not as many commonalities. And once you lose those connections and don't make new ones, the outgrowing period begins. And so that's what happened. There were a couple of times where I did try to rekindle, the way I would look at it, rekindle that relationship. So I felt like we were both on the same page. And, I imagined, based upon her behavior, that she felt we were on the same page and there was no issues. And she probably definitely wasn't looking at it the same way I was. But for me, it still felt pretty disjointed. And I was just like, okay, I just don't think that this is going to be a thing. And funny enough, there was this big, long break. And I feel like it's only now that we're kind of trying to rekindle that friendship. So that's definitely something I found really interesting. And I want you to know that I think that we can definitely outgrow our friends. But as something that might be a little controversial is I believe that we can rekindle those friendships later down the line once our experiences and our thoughts and values and what we're going through align better than they did before, right? Because we're all changing, growing, shifting in our lives. And now she is super into saving and investing and, being able to have just making so much extra money on the side. And she bought her first property and she's looking for more ways to have passive income. And that's like where we've been at for a while, but we're always continuing to look for those things. So I feel like we are rekindling our relationship now, which I find to be really exciting. So I would say to that, if you find that you do feel like you are outgrowing this friend or this person in your life, but it's really hard for you, it's really sad for you, you're struggling with that, I would keep your heart and mind open to it possibly being rekindled in the future, because like I gave you my example, it can. And but I would also not get your hopes up in case that it can't. Sometimes people just don't change. Often people don't change at the same rate that you do. It's not that they won't ever. They may not catch up to you. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way or like that you're better than them. More of like they're just going at their own pace and you're going at your own pace. So I would say that there is this awkward phase you start to fall in though when you do start to outgrow someone. And if you pay attention to like how it's going, you can predict the fallout. Or maybe save it, if that's what you're interested in doing. If you really just feel like, no, Sabrina, I cannot give up this friend. I cannot not be friends with them. I need to be friends with them, even though it feels super awkward and weird. Okay, well then, if you're reading the room and seeing the signs, you should be able to try your best to rekindle it and see if that works, if you're paying attention to those awkward things. And I am going to give you a quick list of questions to ask yourself to see if you are outgrowing your friends. So that should help you to drill down deeper into that as well. But I honestly don't think it's a bad thing that we outgrow people in our lives. I really don't. Some people might say that it's like a super bummer, it's sad, it's too bad. It is. It's all of those things, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Different seasons of life require different people for us to know and engage with. Different pieces of knowledge for us to learn and understand, changes in habits and hobbies, and just letting go of what sustained you in the past and looking forward to what is going to benefit you even more in the future. Those are things that are just going to change and grow with us. And it's important for us to allow ourselves to change and grow as time goes on and as we go through our different seasons of life. Because if we try to stunt our growth by like holding on to things of the past that are no longer serving us, and again, I know this sounds very materialistic, but I don't mean it that way. It's just not working out in that moment. It's totally okay to move on. I think it is. And before we get into the questions, I have 5 questions that I think that you should pose to yourself. I do know that if you start to pull away from someone because you felt like you have outgrown them, but they do not feel the same, yes, feelings get hurt. Feelings will get hurt. But if you're able to have that conversation with them about like, well, I just feel like my life's going in a different direction, because if you want to be candid and honest with them, you can tell them that I don't feel like our life's going in the same direction. I feel super busy. I feel like I'm focused on this and you're focused on that, and that's totally fine. But I want to figure out, I need more time to spend getting to know people that can help me with this, that, or the other, right? So if you want to be candid and honest with them, if you feel like you can't, you can just be like, hey, I've just gotten busy. I don't encourage that. I always encourage honesty. It's always the best option. Honesty is the best policy, as they say, but I know that's super tough for people. So try to find the best way to have a good, honest conversation with this person if you feel like they are hurting and in pain because you are pulling away because you no longer think that this friendship is for you at this time. And I feel like it's a really adult, mature thing to have to deal with and understand. And it's not always easy being an adult, right? So I want you to ask yourself these questions to find out if you have outgrown the people in your life, if you are unsure if that is what you're going through. And again, I have 5 questions for you to pose to yourself. So the first question is, are you starting to make excuses when this person wants to plan time with you? Are you coming up with excuses and reasons to not hang out with them? If you're like, oh, I'm too busy, I'm involved in this, I'm sick, any of these excuses that you're just trying to find any sort of way to not hang out with them. Maybe it's because you are dreading this hangout time. You don't think it's going to be fun. You don't think it's going to be enjoyable. You think that, maybe this person is living in the past. It's such another reason why people outgrow people, because that person is living in the past, right? They are not wanting to grow and learn and stretch themselves. They are just like so comfortable living in the past, being super nostalgic about everything and not moving forward in their life, which can really feel like you're being held back and you just want to free yourself. So if you are starting to make excuses when this person wants to plan time with you, then you're probably outgrowing this friendship. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, do you find yourself getting more annoyed with them? Are just like the little things annoying you more than they used to? Because you know how we can have a high tolerance of the people that we love and we care about. So it's important for you to realize, wow, is this person really getting on my nerves? Am I really just over this whole thing? Am I over like their little habits and this, that, and the other? You could be outgrowing that person. The third question to ask yourself is, have you stopped sharing personal and emotional details with this person? So normally with a friendship, if it's close and it's intimate, you're with a whatever person it is, you're open to sharing these personal and emotional details so that you can kind of vent and walk through and use people as a sounding board and help you understand what you're going through and to see it from someone else's side and perspective. But maybe you're holding back those details. Maybe you're no longer sharing those things. You don't feel like it's beneficial. You don't feel like you want to be as personal. You don't feel like this friendship is as intimate as it used to be, or you don't have that trust anymore. Then yeah, you might be outgrowing this friendship. The fourth question is, do you feel like you're in unrelatable seasons of life? Now, I want to say before we talk about this one is, you could definitely be really close, intimate, vulnerable friends, close with other people, have those close relationships with people that are not in the same season of life with you. I have a lot of those friends and a lot of those acquaintances. However, if you feel like your seasons are so opposite, so different, really have nothing to do with each other at all whatsoever, and there's no way that those 2 seasons could come together to be friends themselves, then you might be outgrowing this friend, because what are you going to collaborate on? What are you going to have common ground on? What are you going to, talk about together? What are you going to commiserate about together? How are you going to have this friendship if you are running out of things to have in common that you're going through, experiencing, and wanting feedback on, right? I feel like it's a valid question. Okay, and the last question I have for you is, are you having less fun with them? Do you feel like when you go out and you do the activities that you used to do, it's not as fun as it used to be, right? It's more boring. It's more mundane, blasé. It's not as exciting. And even the chit chat and the conversation that you have and the catch up is not as fun. You don't give as many details on what you're doing, or what they're doing is like the same and it hasn't changed and they don't anticipate changing it. And you're on your road and you just kind of like check out and you're not there and you're spending time on your phone or finding anyone else to talk to, right? So a lot of these things can really point you in the direction of, if you're having less fun with them, then maybe you shouldn't. Maybe the friendship's done. Maybe you've outgrown this person. So I hope that all of these tips really helped you, like these tips of asking yourself these questions so you can identify if you have outgrown this person or not in your life. And then once you determine that you have or you have not, then you can decide what to do next. So if you haven't, that's great. You can still try to make those friendships and those relationships better by spending more time and maybe trying to bond over different and new things if you feel like things have become stale and stagnant. But if you do discover that you feel like you are outgrowing this person in a friendship or relationship, then you need to have the decision on what kind of conversation you're going to have with them if you feel like you need it. Personally, for me, I didn't really have a conversation with my friend because it just became natural for me to pull away, and it wasn't a thing that she really mentioned. Again, I can't speak to whether it did hurt her internally and then maybe didn't tell me, right? But it was just the decision that I made in the moment. And it may have been the wrong one, but it felt like the right one. And I feel like I haven't had any negative repercussions for that. So whatever side that you fall on, you got to figure out what you're going to do to go forward and then just make new friends. I know it's hard as an adult. I feel like during our adult time, when you leave college, if you go to college, that it's really hard, even if you didn't go to college, it's really hard to make friends as an adult. Even as like a new adult out of that age range of like 21, 22, and up to now. I'm currently 35, and I feel like it's hard to make friends. It wasn't hard to make friends online. I have a lot of online friends, which I think are great. I have a lot of people that I chat with on Instagram, and on the Clubhouse app, I've met some friends, which is great. But in my real life, I only have a few friends, and a lot of them have moved away or do not live close to me. Some of those relationships I have outgrown, other ones I have not, and I'm still in contact with them. But making friends as an adult is so super hard, so I get it. But if you're able to be involved in some sort of community group or hobby or activity that you enjoy doing, and you can make friends that way, I would encourage you to do so that you can have people that are kind of going through the same season of life for you to lean on and talk to and engage with. So that's all I have to say about today's topic, talking about outgrowing your friends and your other relationships in your life. Thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. Please do not hesitate to give me any feedback or suggestions for topics I should talk about, especially now since I just talk about a different topic every single day. I would love to hear it. Send me a DM on Instagram at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. Send me an email at realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com. You're welcome to come chat with me in person. I say in person, in audio on Clubhouse, which is at Sabrina J. Perozzo. If you have an iPhone and you have an invite to that app, I would love to talk to you and speak with you. But beyond that, check the website. I'm starting to do blogs again, which is sabrinajoy.com. But beyond that, you got your show notes down there if you need to reference anything or share it with someone. But thank you so much for listening, sharing, and downloading the show. It is so appreciated, more than you even know, because I'm hoping I can help people as a real full-time job someday. And all of you actually listening and benefiting from this show is helping me get closer and closer to that goal and dream. So until next time, have a good one, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.